Hello everyone, my name is Professor Tom Tafoya. It is my pleasure to bring to you a course entitled Business and Finance English. I hope you enjoy this. So let's begin. First off, you're seeing the course summary, and there's basically 6 sections to this particular training module. In the first case, the focus of the course is on the subjects of economics, banking, and finance. The second part of the course will focus on video discussions. I will explain this a little later. The third aspect of the training is to provide you with practice on sentence construction. That is, actually writing new sentences or sentences that are given to you for practice. Fourth, we will then focus on helping you to develop English pronunciation skills. And fifth, in this module and all other modules hereafter, there will be a section where we present you with certain questions and assignments that you will be able to work on your own university site with a teaching assistant. And then last, what I have done at the end of the module is to compile a comprehensive or total list of the major words that we have been exposed to in our study of economics, business, and finance. So let us begin. The first description is on the focus of the course is on economics, banking, and finance. What I'm doing here is I'm going to try to break down those concepts into smaller parts so that in case you don't have a strong language familiarity with English, at the very least I'll present the major terms with further explanation. The first term that is important is the concept of economics. And so we ask ourselves, well, what is economics? Some of you may have already had courses in the subject and others not. So economics is defined as the study of systems where goods and services are exchanged for money or something of value. A little bit later in this presentation, I will give you further definitions breaking down some of this language. The second term that I think is important for you to learn about is the concept of a bank. So knowing what a bank is important when we're presented with the subject of banking in general. A bank, as surely you will recognize, it's a financial institution, in this case licensed by the government to receive deposits and generally to make loans to companies and the public. And now we get to that higher order term, banking itself. Banking is actually an industry. It's the industry or the business that handles cash, credit, and other financial transactions. Most of us, as a matter of common experience, understand the concept of banking. The next term that's important for us to have a good understanding of is the concept of finance. This term is a very broad concept that describes 2 related activities. The first is the study of how money is managed. And then the second activity that finance deals with is the actual process of how individuals or companies acquire funds. So here I will describe for you, well, what are videos? Again, this is a common term that most people will know, but the particular definition we're using, we say that a video is the recording, reproducing, or broadcasting of moving visual images. I expect that almost everyone will already understand that. But in this case, what we're going to be doing in the course is to focus on video discussions. What are we talking about in that regard? Well, a discussion is the action or process of talking about something. So in this case, actually, we will be talking about the videos, and as the second part of the Business and Finance English course, we're going to be studying videos that explain further these concepts of business, banking, economics, etc. The next area of focus in the course summary is I explained to you that we will be engaging in the practice of sentence construction. So what is this going to be about? So let's deconstruct the sentence into its parts and see if we can develop a basic understanding of what this part of the course is going to be about. Practice is the first term. If we are practicing something, we're performing or working at something repeatedly so that we can become proficient at it. In this case, the focus of what we're doing in this course is learning about business English and English related to the concept of economics and banking. So we're going to practice, in this case, sentences that make use of these terms. So I believe that's a third part of the instruction that you're going to be exposed to in the Business English course here. The next term is sentence construction. That may be a little bit more complicated for people. And what do we mean by that phrase? In this case, the idea is that all sentences, proper sentences that is, they are required to follow certain rules of English in order to be considered proper. So in our training in this Business and Finance English course, we're going to teach you and provide you with practice of how you correctly construct sentences that make use of business, economics, and finance terms. So now I break down the phrase further and say, what is construction? In the present context, construction refers to how we will arrange the words and how we connect them in sentences. And then I referred here to what we refer to as context. When we are studying context, it means we're going to be looking at what is the environment in which the language is used. This actually becomes important to understand because the context in which we will be operating is Business and Finance English, which is a special domain. For example, it's not the same context as when you study something in literature. That is a different context, and some words in fact could be the same in both domains, the domain of business and finance as well as the domain of literature, but they would have different meanings because of the different context. So it's important to have a little bit of understanding of what we're referring to. The next area of instruction, the fourth area actually, is referred to as English pronunciation. I think this should be fairly straightforward, and the term pronunciation refers to the way in which a word is pronounced. So we might say federal as a term. Federal is a term referring to the government, in this case of the United States, and especially for people who speak in Chinese, it's my understanding it's probably very likely that for some proper pronunciation of the word federal might present some problems. So in order to prepare you for the study of Business and Finance English, we want to make sure that you understand the language, how it sounds, and that you know how to pronounce or say these words that you will encounter in your study of business, finance, and economics. So now another thing that we shift to as a major area of basic understanding, I wanted to give you a definition and talk a little bit about this broad area. In this particular slide, we're going to be deconstructing the sentence where we're trying to explain what is economics. Economics and understanding of it has three parts, where we need to understand what is the concept of production, what do we mean by consumption, and what is the transfer of wealth. First, production refers to all the things that are used, both physical and non-physical or non-financial, that are made use of in producing what are called goods and services. Goods and services is the next area we need to explain, and I've combined the two separate terms. I think it works here. And goods and services are referred to as the most basic products of an economic system. Goods and services are made up of tangible, consumable items. Those are the goods. And then tasks performed by individuals are generally referred to as services. We have a further breakdown of the term goods into what are referred to as consumer goods. Consumer goods are things that are bought for personal use. They are not things that are used to produce other goods. Some examples of consumer goods include such things as shirts, jewelry, food, all the little things that surround us and that we make use of in our daily life. The next term in the deconstruction is capital goods as opposed to consumer goods. Capital goods, sort of logically, are those things that are bought to produce other goods. This is a more unusual term, and it includes things such as trucks, machinery, manufacturing equipment, which I think it's easy to understand that these kinds of things are the things that would be needed in factories, etc., the places where consumer goods are made. The second major concept, as I mentioned, is consumption. And in economics, consumption is the use of goods and services by whole households. And as the term suggests, we use up these goods and we use up services. Using the goods, if you think of what happens in your kitchen, you use dish soap, which is a good. It gets used up and you throw the bottle away. Services for your home, you might have a termite service that kills the pests that are in a house, or ants, maillis. And then those services are used up when they've been delivered, or a window washing service. As another example, you would hire somebody to come in and clean the windows outside of your house. Once that's finished, the service is complete, and you might, after a couple months, purchase the service again, so it's consumed. You're consuming the service, in this case, that's used to maintain your house. And then the last concept that we should understand in order to have an appreciation of economics is referred to as the transfer of wealth. And what is this? In economics, the transfer of wealth refers to the distribution or passing of all the output, income, or other assets within society. Another terminology that's used, it's called the distribution, let's refer to it this way, the distribution of goods and things of value within the society. As we all know, some individuals are fortunate and have a lot of these things. People who live in mansions, etc., enjoy a higher proportion of the wealth of the nation, and people who are the frontline workers of society, they do the hard work, but they may not have all the goods that they would like to. So notice that in the transfer of wealth, in the activity of the economy, the distribution of that wealth in almost all societies is very uneven. Some have more, some have less. To understand economics, we focus on, well, how does the transfer of wealth occur?